So finally, we got the answers. It's really that Fred and Shannon did not want to follow with this dream, or did not want to follow Brandon Marshall down this pathway of creating this larger platform, this maybe network of platforms that, you know, came about as a result of their success. And Shannon and Fred, Freaky Fred, that what they call him, wanted to just do the podcast, nothing else. Didn't want to put in no money for nothing though. I mean, this is just my assessment of what's going on. I could be corrected, but it looked like didn't want to put no money in. Seeing all the stuff that's costing money, seeing all the production, seeing everything like that, don't say nothing. You quiet. But then when it's time to split up the checks that come in, now all of a sudden you got a whole lot to say. You're talking about ownership and all this other stuff. I'm kind of wondering where all that talk was when Brandon Marshall was spending money trying to get this thing popping. I don't know. Seemed real similar to some other podcast situations that broke up. Business not done on the front end. Everybody talking crazy on the back end, like they didn't see all the work and effort that was going in while the platform was being built up. And then all of a sudden now, everybody, we friends, right? Listen, you can be my friend and help me pay for some of this stuff I'm paying for to get this show running that you sitting around looking like you don't understand what's happening. Okay? You can still be my friend and pitch in on something sometime. And you can still be my friend and get out the door. So, I mean, listen, I would say don't give up your friendship. If you ain't got the money and don't got the business, at least keep the friendship. Do your best. Hell. But if you don't want to put no money in, hey, peace. All right, welcome back to another episode of OPM and Beyond, where we discuss, you guessed it, other people's money in order to learn more about ourselves and create generational wealth. I am your host, E. Rains. Let's get into it. I knew this was going to come up. I knew it because there was something that was just special. There was something that was too great that was going on with I Am Athlete for it to kind of oddly splinter in the way it did, and it had some real kind of weird similarities, in my opinion, to the whole Joe Budden, Rory and Mal situation. Albeit the personalities are different, but some of the same underlying elements that we would care about for the purposes of this show, of just, you know, Black people trying to work together, or minorities trying to work together in particular, but it really could be anybody, but minorities in particular trying to work together, not really having the business portion of things together on the front end, and seeing the ramifications of that ambiguity permeate, right? It's almost like if you think about a contract. The contract has specific and definite terms, right? And if the terms are not specific and definite, then it comes to a question of whether or not you had a contract at all, right? So with the business not being reduced to writing, with things kind of being left up in the air and left to ride just on friendship, I think it's kind of unfair on all parties to have too heavy of expectations in terms of the solid business of it on the other parties, when you don't have the proper business taken care of on the front end. All of these are business folks. These are people who, you know, multi-million-dollar, or they should be business folks. You know, they have significant incomes that they've received from, you know, playing in the NFL, and they have enough business savvy to know a good opportunity when they see one. So you should have enough business savvy to try to earlier on get a real solid understanding of what it is that you all are creating or doing together, right? And that, just like in some other situations, like I said, I liken it to the Joe Budden, Mal and Rory situation, because a lot of that business was not handled. And as the platform got bigger and bigger and bigger, a lot of people started trying to cash in on the back end, and realizing that they weren't on the same page when it came to the manner in which things should be split. And one thing I'm noticing is that there's always, it's almost kind of like if you took 10 people and put them in a room, you'll start to see like that bell curve of different type of personalities show up. You'll have somebody who's kind of a leader type, want to take charge. You'll have people that just kind of sit in the corner and agree with whoever looks like they know what they're talking about. You have people that are always going to be the adversarial person to dissent just for the sake of dissenting. You're always going to see like that natural curve kind of evidence itself, and that kind of is what happens in business, right? You have the as Brandon would call himself, the disruptor, the visionary individual who, to his credit, is the one who came up with this idea, for he and for him and Fred and Channing and eventually Ocho Cinco and all these folks to come together to do something with their time during the pandemic when everyone is kind of stuck at home, right? And some way to be productive and to do something that also may provide a benefit to the community that you would plan on serving, right? Which would be athletes, but also to a larger point, individuals who are interested in some detailed backstory and locker room talk of other athletes, right? So in any event, they got together by Brandon Marshall going around and recruiting people to, put this podcast together during the pandemic. And what happened was, and they will all admit this, is that it kind of took off in such a way that they may not have actually expected it to, at least in the sense of how fast it took off. And so, people just kind of got in where they fit in. But Brandon Marshall definitely took a leadership role, in a sense of just kind of being the visionary for what this thing will look like. How will we tailor it? How will we pay for different things that we need to pay for and procure in order to make this a proper functioning business, right? So in that sense, everybody kind of allowed him to do that because it's kind of easy to do that, right? When you're not footing the bill for things, other people are paying for stuff or whatever. Like, oh, okay, that's great. And then it gets to a point where you start to want to see a return on what you believe your investment to be, whether that be financial, sweat equity, what have you, right? To make this machine move forward. And there's a complete breakdown in communication. And honestly, it appears to be fracture in the personal relationships as well. Maybe Channing seems like he can kind of get over it a little bit and just move forward with his friends, maybe move a little differently, but it looks like he can maybe get past it. I don't think nobody's getting past nothing with Fred. I think Fred is trying to keep it cute, as they say, but Fred is not having it. Fred is not having it, but you don't want to do nothing. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. What I want to do is, the first thing we'll do is, I watched this beforehand, but I'm going to go back to it and I want to play it and kind of break into it as I go along with Brandon Marshall kind of explaining things from his viewpoint. And then, just earlier today, I saw another clip that Channing and Fred were involved in, in terms of them appearing on another podcast in the form of their new podcast, The Pivot, right? Appropriately named. And so we'll take a look and then we'll just kind of dive into some details in that fashion. So here we go. Without further ado, we shall get into Brandon Marshall kind of breaking some things down with interview style kind of thing happening on the I Am Athlete platform. So here we go.
With from the pandemic, I Am Athlete was birthed. What's the backstory behind you guys launching that podcast?
Just invested $50,000 in equipment to tell the story of House of Athlete, the purpose, the passion, the why, still the same. Had a creative team, like social media team on retainer. And I had this facility, which was a studio. And I was living in a neighborhood with like legends. The Rock shared a backyard with me. You had Reggie Wayne, Amari Stoudemire, Fred Taylor, Channing Crowder, Ocho Cinco down the road. Like all these people like in our neighborhood. And we're just like, everybody's walking dogs and doing exercises and outside.
So everybody's just chilling.
And I was like, wow, like this might be an opportunity to sell a show. And so you're looking at ESPN FS1, you had Shannon Sharp and Stephen A. Smith, you know, watching their shows at home on Zoom with these headphones on. I was like, this is terrible production. Like, damn, this is our opportunity to break through.
So he sees the vision.
I got everything I need. Can
Yeah.
we do it and stay safe? Because I can't use the facility. We can't do anything with House of Athlete because it's like, hey, you know, got to be safe or whatnot. And so we was like, Channing Crowder was over. I was like, yo, if I find a way to do this in a safe way, would you be interested in launching a podcast? I think I can sell a show. He said, yeah, absolutely. I was like, great. Like, you know, Channing. It's like he's going to say, he's authentic, he's real. And then there was, Fred Taylor. So I jumped in my golf cart and I went a couple streets over. I'm like, yo, Fred, if I start this podcast, what you do? He's like in his yard, like no shirt. Like everybody was doing workouts at the time, like freaky Fred, like, shirt off, sweating. He's like, yo, I got you. And then right across the street, Reggie Wayne. So I'm like, Reg, if I do this podcast, would you do it? Send me the info. Like Reg is so slow. He's like, he really enjoying retirement. He's like, send me the information. I'll check it out, right? So then we put it together, and then like Christina and the team, they had no clue what to do. It was just social media, Instagram. So we launched it, and then so like that's what inspired it was like, how do we create the show and sell it? And then I started having conversations with all these brands, and they were like, started having all these conversations with brands, and it morphed into like, oh no, we got something special.
Brandon just got struck with the vision. You know, he's like, you know, other folks are doing this. It would be done the same way as basically the main shows that you see every day, the household names in the sports commentary and media that you see every day. It would be done in the same way. But one thing that's interesting to note and pull out is Brandon had a vision for putting something together from the perspective of the athlete, but with high quality production. That's something really important to point out for for I Am Athlete, not House of Athlete, but I'm sure he does it for that too. But for I Am Athlete, the production quality to me is outstanding. Like I said in a previous video, I Am Athlete is A1 when it comes to B-roll footage, when it comes to creating the environment, the experience, adding a little something more in terms of the atmosphere, and setting the stage for the conversations that take place that are interesting to people who are not just, purely sports heads, people who just love sports. It can be applicable in a lot of ways to other people as well. But he paid heavy attention to production quality, which comes out streamingly through everything that they do. Like he said, he went in and he recruited. He had this idea. He saw kind of a certain vision to a certain level at that time, and he started recruiting folks, right? Getting folks in. So he is the nucleus to this whole brand of I Am Athlete, and that comes across through everything that's happened from the start to the finish of this. But we'll continue.
Yeah, you do have something special. When did you realize that I Am Athlete became like a cultural voice for our culture?
So we had this one episode, and this before like Ocho came on. We had this episode where we were like, yo, who's your top 5 artists? And then like a couple people said Kanye West, and Channing Crowder sat forward. He was like, Kanye West? This man made a song about don't marry a gold digger, and he went and married a gold digger. When I saw that, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then it just, that was the moment where I was like, oh, we've been leaning heavy on sports. We need to lean on
Culture.
So like after that show is when we start like really leaning, like I called it 70-30. I was like, yo, 70% evergreen where everybody can relate, 30% sports. And so like it just.
So that's something that's key to pull out, because one of the things that we'll see back and forth between the two is, differences in terms of, Channing and Fred will often say, the vision. We don't get it. We're not feeling it. We don't follow it or whatever. Part of that, other than just the finances of things, a lot of that's kind of, I think, a little bit BS, but maybe to a certain extent they might agree with that, but I think maybe that might be a 70-30 as well. 30% of their argument probably is really that, and the rest of it is money and the structure of the business. But in my opinion, but at this point is one of the reasons why, I think I Am Athlete caught on so well, because it's a really, really excellent fusion of sports and, like he said, evergreen, of things that everybody can relate to. And that comes across. You could completely not really be into sports and still be significantly entertained by the conversation that takes place and where it goes, even though it will have a perspective from athletes, because that's what they are. They are athletes, right? So it's always going to have that piece in there no matter what they talk about. And that's something very special that they're able to do in what they will refer to a lot of times like the locker room feel of it, right? So that does make it pretty special, and that was something that he kind of tinkered with as he saw the response to certain things that happened that weren't specific to sports, really. And that example was more music, but very interesting, right? So there was a little bit of a switch there, and so that may be some of the reason that Channing and Fred maybe like the balance as much, but who knows?
Or like at the time we were getting 84 people viewing, a couple thousand, views on YouTube, and in that moment is when it started really taking off.
Now, the question for you, obviously you've been doing it for a couple of years, and all of these individuals have been partaking and participating with the vision that you were going to sell the show and everybody was going to eat. Did you grow too fast?
I'm a disruptor.
Is there ever too fast, though?
For some people.
There goes that disruptor thing.
And I learned a lot, right? Because like we did this exercise like Strength Finders 2.0, where you understand what the strengths of your team is. So for me, I'm an activator. Like I got this note beside my bed that somebody in the industry, like a CTO of a major company, when I was asking him questions about this, and he wrote something. He said, if you want to disrupt, you got to be willing to go fast enough and be comfortable with breaking. And so like, I'm comfortable like that. No.
Yes, you are.
No plans, no nothing. I saw an opportunity, let's go. And so I'm like, we'll figure it out as we go. And so like, when you say, too fast, I think for me, no, but the startup culture, and when you understand like what that does, it's tough, it's extremely exhausting for everybody. And so like, it presents a lot of challenges. So you have to have like the mental fortitude, and you have to have like the perseverance, all those skills from football to actually just keep going and break through.
So this is important to tease out, because this is the part where really I think the breakdown started, and this was always going to be an issue likely, because like Brendan said, they did a strength finder exercise, but so it sounds like there was some team building kind of stuff there too, just to make sure people were aware of like, how they operate, so that there's not a clash there. The only problem is I agree that when, you're innovating, you're starting something, you are feeling things out, there has to be a lot of room to be able to grow, right? A lot of times when you start off with an idea and you do something that's supposed to be serving a particular market, or a lot of times you'll find out that the real commodity, the real gap or problem that you find in the market that you're supposed to fill might be slightly different than what you started with. It could really be some other component of whatever you initially thought you were going to go with. So if you thought you were going to do a show fully about just sports, all hardcore sports, only sports topics, and you start finding out that people want to know a little bit more about the athletes. We see them in sports already. We see all of that. We kind of want to know more about the human aspect of things, or how you think about this, or how you felt at this point when this happened, and behind the scenes, this and that, and how do you deal with this issue or that issue? What's your viewpoint of this, right? All these different things that tie in to humanizing the athlete, right? So then, you have to pivot there. But by even having, by giving room to evolve, that doesn't mean that everybody has to be confused as to their role in that, right? So in the role in innovating a particular product, or innovating a particular commodity, or something that you're putting together to introduce to a marketplace, everybody doesn't have to be confused about their role. If you're in manufacturing, the design, we're like, we don't know what we're going to make, but somebody who's involved in the endeavor for engineering is not going to be, thinking that he's doing something else. He's an engineer. That's your role. So if you're talent, you need to know your talent. If you are an owner, you need to know you're an owner. Certain things don't have to be chaotic, even though you have to allow for agility and a certain level of controlled chaos in creating. And so that's where I find the disconnect, because the roles need to be understood. They can evolve and change, but that needs to be a solid understanding. It shouldn't be, I'm guessing and I'm assuming and I'm hoping and I'm, it needs to be kind of clear. So I don't understand the confusion there, right? And we'll get into some of that, because I don't understand how everybody was sitting around watching Brandon Marshall rack up different bills. They were seeing new stuff roll in. They seeing production, cameras, crews, mics, stuff that's not even really, their production is on point. There's no mics and all of this stuff. There's not all this stuff that's in the actual, camera. There's not people fiddling, with things. It's just, it takes away all of that production, static or production interference and all this stuff in the way, and just makes it look like people sitting around having a conversation. Look, I'm hitting my stuff. It's in the way, right? It's just clean, open floor. Just seems like you're sitting in someone's living room, right? So that's all I want to say about that. There should not be confusion as to the part I play in something, because all that does is introduce opportunity for me to feel cheated, whether I am the person who is apparently winning or not in the scenario, right? Because to a certain extent, probably everybody feels a little bit cheated in this situation, because Brandon probably can count on his hands for times that somebody asked to help him do something, or to help pay for something, or produce something, other than just showing up talking, right? And they can probably sit back and say, hey man, I thought we were, all sharing on this, equally, and it was like a friend thing that we were, yeah. But when it's business though, and we're trying to produce something, and Brandon made it clear from the beginning, according to him, that hey, let's produce something so we can package it and sell it, and then it became something bigger, right? So it was always understood that this was business that should work because of our relationship. So there shouldn't have been chaos on that front.
Even when the struggles are there.
That's right.
When you see deals done like Patrick McAfee's deal, $30 million a year, Dan Le Batard's deal, for media entities, using sports as kind of a platform, but really talking cultural stuff. When you see those deals getting done with major corporations, what seed does it plant in you?
Well, first, the show broke through. I felt like this show is going to be an accelerator and incubator of talent, because people, when I first was trying to sell the show, it's like, oh, we love the show, we love the concept, we love you, but like, can we change? Can we put this running back on, and can we do this with Channing Crowder? It's like, no, like these are my guys. Absolutely not. Deal breaker. How much money? Doesn't matter. Deal breakers.
Let's hold up. See, and that might be one of the reasons why Channing is not really, he doesn't really sit in the same level of frustration and pistosity as Fred. I'm sure that Channing was aware that it was probably times when people were trying to move him out of the picture, or felt like maybe they could replace him with somebody, or they had a certain look they wanted to go for, because I could see how in certain instances people would point to Channing as the piece that may not fit as well, even though I disagree. And that became evident. Sometimes when you have chemistry with the cast and crew, sometimes you just don't touch it, because everybody plays. Sometimes it's that relationship that folks have that allow them to really pick up on each other and take things to a different level, other than just kind of the people who you want to be there and taking all these individual pieces that you think are great individually. Sometimes a collective just has a certain magic, and there's different times in entertainment you see that and you really respect it, and you realize you can't recreate that. And so I think even beyond that, I think Brandon Marshall said, no, I started with these guys. I'm not moving somebody out of the picture because you think it would look better aesthetically or for this, or cachet wise. I don't know. Hell, any reason that somebody would want to move somebody out for for marketing reasons. But I think that's where a lot of that friendship kind of component came in, or camaraderie that they had, where Brandon was like, no, I hand selected these people. We're developing talent, incubator, like he said, so if there's something that, somebody's working on or getting better at or something like that, it's going to be part of this process, and we're going to do it together. So that may be another reason why, Channing is not too, is still giving credence to the relationship and holding it seemingly in a certain regard, even though he might be a little ticked. Right? So anyway, we'll continue.
And then so it was like, oh, this could be something where this show launched into Channing Crowder's fishing show, this launched into Reggie Wayne's Cigars and Cars show, Freaky Fred goes into, finance, right? And so now we got a production company, now we have a network. And so that's what happened. Vision. And then as I started to plan, and I brought in somebody to help me build up my 5-year roadmap and my business plan after we already got started.
I just want to point out that my 5-year plan, after we already got started, there's some confusion going on. But it's clear that Brandon always kind of had it. At a certain point, I think Brandon just kind of saw this as his. And I don't know that, hell, it might have been from the beginning, being that he's the one who went around, like I said, collecting the talent. Like it was his vision, his vision that grew and developed and expanded. It was him, he mentioned that it was his people in the beginning that he was working with, all his team, right, that was working on other stuff that he brought together. And it was just kind of an extension of some stuff he was doing anyway, and he wanted to expand that. And I think he saw that as a continuation of stuff he was going to do anyway. But I just don't ever think that the other guys, and this I could stand to be corrected, but I don't ever think the other guys ever really made the point clear of their role and where they thought they should land. Because it's really hard for guys like this to get to that point and be so far on different pages so far down the line. So, hey.
Like, oh, The Ringer, 300 million. Joe Rogan, how much? 300 million. Dan Lebatard, Metalark, 3 for 50. Smart List, they started a year ago. They did 80 million just on audio. So to me, it's like, yes, they set the market. So that's what I see. When Pat did that,
market research,
Pat, he's one of my guys. I reach out to him, Matt Barnes, Joe Budden, Noriega,
Joe.
you know, even the guys,
Dory.
you know, Gillian, though, you know,
Gilly.
them, what they
Yeah.
doing.
Oh, love it.
Yo, like, what are y'all doing? How did we do this, right? And so it's like they're setting the bars, and it's like football to me. Wide receiver market. You know, when I came out before I did the Miami deal, Larry Fitzgerald, 4 for $40 million, right? Okay, well, I'm the hottest thing right now. Now I need to reset the market. I need to be paid the most. Give me 4 for 47, whatever.
It doesn't just benefit you, it benefits everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah.
So see Pat doing that, and now it's like, okay, he reset the market. And now you look at Pat McAfee, who's a genius. He said, I don't need FS1, I don't need ESPN. I can go do this, you know, myself.
Here's where I see a lot of that similarity activity I mentioned, or the similarity between Brandon and Joe. Brandon and Joe both kind of very different in terms of personality and persona. They both dug deep when it came to the research and the market research, the background as to what you need to do what, reaching out to other individuals in the field that you're looking to go into or to take by storm, really understanding the business and trying to figure out how to maximize in this space your profitability, market share, and all of that, your impact in that space, right? And again, in that situation, there are other people in the mix, virtually everyone else, just like in the Joe Budden podcast, that have no freaking idea about none of that. That, and I will acknowledge that is an assumption. I don't know that to be fact, but it stands to reason if it were not true, it would come across so much more in the conversations that Fred and Channing are having about this topic. Like I haven't heard Fred or Channing talking about analytics and where, what the numbers did and other people in the market that they talk to and what the 5-year plan is and what they just look. We want to talk. we just want to do just this, and that's fine, But it's just it becomes very evident during listening to the different conversations that are had, who's really doing the groundwork for a lot of this stuff. And when it starts to come trying to split up the money and this and that, it's kind of like, I don't even want to get to that part, because that part I want to go into more so when we get to Fred and Channing's interview portion thing that they did. So let me just continue forward. Oh, and before I keep going, I don't know if this was like subconscious or whatnot, but do you notice that Brandon Marshall's clothes in this particular clip are loud as hell? Like, I don't know if you watch the show, generally Brandon wears, it looks like signature pieces, like a high-end piece kind of mixed with something else, or maybe like a print, or like a certain texture, like a high-end leather or something like that. He always, you could tell like he got a woman that really care about him. She love him. She I feel like she go pull them clothes out, be like, oh, you about to go. Let me get you right for. Wait, who's gonna be on this show? Nah, you can't be sitting next to Cam Newton looking like, hold on, let me get you. I could be totally wrong. He could be the fashionista in his relationship. I'm just saying, it looked like somebody care about him, right? But this outfit looks different. He usually is wearing like a lot of like very like darker colors, or like sharp contrast, right? So to be like, bright whites in darker colors, or like a deep shades of either brown or black, like really like, stuff like that. This outfit, I don't know. Put it like this. This looked like a peacocking outfit. Like, I'm gonna talk my ish, like peacocking, like the term, right? This outfit bright as hell. And I've never seen him. I could be wrong. I have to go back and look at some other episode. I've never seen him wear anything this busy on this show. And it's kind of interesting that this is the show and this conversation is the show that he's wearing this. So I'll have to do research to see if there was some other reason he got this on. But this outfit busy as hell, and it's like a look at me outfit. Just a side note, subconscious side note. But anyway,
those they serve a purpose, but like you don't need the traditional networks anymore. And so now it's like, okay, let's study Pat McAfee. What is he doing? How's he repurposing content? He shoot one show and now it's repurposed on 10 different platforms in an hour. And audio,
monetizing
video,
across multiple
tour,
platforms.
Boom, boom, boom. So now if
business
you have
of
the template, the game plan, the blueprint, and your content sticky is good, follow the blueprint. So like, it's just like, it's inspirational.
And the challenge is staying committed and making sure everybody who has been there at the beginning remains with the team. Now, we haven't seen the show in a minute. Are contracts being worked out or discussions being had? Are we looking at a Joe Budden breakup situation?
Yep.
No, we're not looking at a Joe Budden situation. I think all of us know, the thing that we all know is that this is bigger than just content. People, when I travel the country, I've taken a few trips outside the country, since we've been able to fly. And, normally when I travel, right, like when I was with the Denver Broncos and the fantasy football hit, I went to Vegas one time and Misha and I was walking through the Wynn Hotel and someone was like, hey, Brandon, I think you're on a fantasy football. I was like, what? People notice me? And then it was the big deal. Oh, great job. Like, highest paid receiver now, allegedly. That's another story. And then there was, Pro Bowl. Like, you had these moments.
Yeah.
Right? And then there was the Showtime deal. And so, like, traveling around, I love Phil Simms. I love Ray Lewis. Now, when I'm out, that podcast, I Am Athlete, like, it touches me.
Yeah.
It saved me here, did this. Me and my wife, now we watching it because now we learning from the couples edition, whatever. So all of us know that this is a cultural and a social phenomenon, and it's touching so many people. So we have to figure it out. We have to get on the same page, and we got to keep it going. But like now, it's just like the business of it is so big and it's so complex, because when you think about like this show right now, you can take this show and you can monetize it in so many different ways. I got audio, I got video, and then other distribution.
So you're just excited about understanding the business of it.
A linear deal with the HBO,
different ways you can go.
Amazon, Netflix, et cetera.
Right.
Right? Then you got Snapchat, Instagram, you got TikTok.
Yeah.
There you go.
But making money though. There's so many different things to it. So like, we are at the table figuring out like, how does this all work together? And it's been tough,
People love what you're doing with NASCAR. There's an audience for it, for our people. But what's this whole NASCAR thing about, man? When are we gonna get?
You're gonna leave him
back?
alone
Right.
with that NASCAR thing. Let him do his thing, man.
Someone told me this before, right? Well, first, when I got married, somebody said, I remember, like, just got on Twitter, somebody said, this is gonna last 6 months. It's a challenge.
Wow.
I was talking to somebody that wanted to do it was a good deal, it was a big network, it was an okay deal. And it was like, the challenge is, can you do it twice? Right? So,
well, hopefully that's not why you stayed in
I
your
Am Athlete
marriage, the
Miami
challenge that somebody
is a
gave you,
cultural,
but I get the point.
Phenomenon.
Moving on. I'm just.
Now, I Am NASCAR is another opportunity. Like, I'm only going to do things that I love and I'm passionate about. I am truly passionate about it, but also gives me another opportunity to do it twice. And then that is going to turn it 3, 4, 5 times, and that now we have our network.
So again, he's saying it's hard for me to believe that throughout this whole time that these gentlemen have been talking, and this I am portion or I portion has not come across to them while talking to Brandon. Everything Brandon is saying is, I'm not doing things that I'm not passionate about. I looked into this. I'm talking about so it's just no way that he didn't just start talking like this. If he did, oh my gosh, Oh my gosh, because I just can't see. I can't see a world in which they've been together this long. I mean, honestly, it's been very quick, but in terms of the amount of time they've been around each other doing this podcast, and this has not come across. I just think people were sitting around and people thought that they were just going to split everything down the middle because they was all friends and that was going to be it. I really don't think it had nothing to do with a different direction of the content, or they doing it's multiple, podcast. The only way put it like this: the only way I see that being a concern for a Channing or Fred is because you never saw yourself working hard enough to develop and hold a platform yourself. Meaning, like when Brandon was saying, like, okay, yeah, we building this thing up, we're gonna have a little network, we can do, Channing and Fred, somebody do fishing, somebody do this, somebody do that. And unless they just was really sitting and thinking, I don't feel like working that hard, because I mean, honestly, they make this look easy, but I do think it's much easier to do an ensemble interview and show than it is to hold something down individually. I don't know that is a issue, but if there's somebody who's just kind of riding a wave and just kind of like the way stuff is and don't really want to act like do nothing, like, really like grind in a certain way to develop something beyond where you initially thought it would go, that would be wise. Like, no, I don't want to have my own show, my own cooking, fishing, whatever. That's a lot of work. I want to come here and Brandon, you be Oprah, and I just say something every 3 minutes so I can get that camera cut in, and generally it'll be relevant because I'll reserve comment for when I really have something to add, and that's it. I don't want to do nothing. And again, what type of split you talking about getting with that type of, that's the impression I'm getting. Again, I do want to put this out there that, of course, I don't have no more knowledge than anybody else out here just kind of watching this stuff play out. I don't know any of these things to be true, but what I'm coming to the conclusion of is it makes a lot of sense. It's making a lot of sense, and it's a lot of the same stuff as the Joe Budden podcast situation. Thank goodness Rory and Mal are, putting some work in these days, working together and be able to put their own name on something and claim it as their own and say, I work for this, I did this. I think that's a great thing, right? So, but that's beside the point. But I just wanted to point that out here. It's a whole lot of going on for the people not to know what was happening.
So there's stories to be told there. There's opportunities
Absolutely.
for the minority, So it's big business. And so, like, I love it. There's a business opportunity. There's stories to be told. I'm there. And I got to do a better job of embracing and engaging our audience. And like my vision moving forward is like, what I want to do is use our audience to incubate shows and talent. Say like, hey guys, what do you think about this idea?
What do you want? That's an important avenue. A lot of people miss that avenue of social media.
Right.
It's about feeding your audience. If they know where to.
Correct.
But they made this.
Yeah.
They made this a
Correct.
social cultural phenomenon. So for me to say like, hey guys, this is what I'm doing. I'm gonna do 4 shows. Now you guys vote and tell me if you want to do I Am Athlete Houston.
Yeah.
They got to decide that, and I got to listen. I think if I do a better job of engaging the people who built this, and as we introduce it, it'll work.
Now the financial commitment.
Oh, let's talk about it.
Launching.
Let's talk about
I Am
it.
Athlete. That was
Clear.
on your shoulders.
Let's get clear.
How do you make sure that everybody's taken care of and you're not taking a loss?
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting, right? Because, and these are things like, right, like you have these conversations, you learn, you disagree.
Money's an awkward conversation. And I know you've been having money awkward conversations your whole life.
Right. And also you got to understand, like, I'm sitting with bosses, I'm sitting with alpha males, I'm sitting with legends, I'm sitting with dudes, who multimillionaires.
Yeah.
So like, you talking a little couple, like, to get some of these athletes to come out and do something for an hour, we're talking about 25, 30,000. $40,000, $50,000, $100,000. Oh, you want me to fly to Chicago to open up your sports book? Yeah, 80,000 one day.
Wow.
So now like this is like, you got to come proper. You know, for me, I got to, you know, continue to lean into, you know, our chemistry and continuity can't be duplicated. And so that it's special what we have. And we all deserve a piece of that. And also, I think the best approach when you look at, you know, everybody else that's out there doing it is a rev share deal. You know, so like, you know, there's so many different ways you can do it. But at the end of the day, that's the tough part, is because it's not, we didn't even get into it about that, but you know, how do we keep this going like Breakfast Club and you're celebrating 14 years and you're really moving the needle? Because to me, they are the standard from a culture standpoint.
Absolutely.
I truly believe I Am Athlete Miami and LA and what we're doing with, you know, I Am Athlete Woman, like we are literally morphing into something that is a cultural phenomenon.
You saw when Brandon Marshall start getting into the, like, I'm not a person who like knows what body language and stuff means, but you see when he started getting into the conversation about the red sharing and stuff, he start messing with that hair, and you know, you could tell it was some stress. that started to get to the piece. So really, I mean, and he tried to like bring it back and be like that. We didn't even really get to all that. I think he got to it, because definitely Fred wasn't pleased about it. So and he called it out. And that whole red share or whatever, see, that sound like a conversation between, it's probably other people too, but that sound like Joe and Brandon had a conversation. He already mentioned he talked to Joe. I think Joe was like, man, you put in how much, you did what, you did the research, you looked into the brand deals, you had the social media team, you was booking the athletes to come out, you was paying for the individual interviews or whatever people needed to make it to do the actual interview. Man, if you don't put them people on a revenue sharing deal and keep your ownership of your stuff, you know, because I'm like, where was everybody else when he was paying for and doing all this stuff? Like Brandon Marshall said, he said, you know, I'm sitting down talking to bosses, multi-million-dollar this and that or whatever and the third. Okay, so we got millions. Now we're not gonna get into what everybody's finances necessarily are today and what they, you know, and where the folks are, because a lot of people kind of, you know, COVID and everything, money kind of look interesting today. So, but in any event, wasn't nobody really having a lot of conversations when Brandon Marshall was cutting the checks, trying to get the people where they need to be or whatever. So if this part is, you know, not as solid or as true, as somebody needs to say something, because nobody has presented anything to the contrary of what Brandon is saying about footing the bill for a lot of this stuff. And let me tell you something, as much money as he's talking about, whether he got it, whether he's rich or whatever or not, it's a lot of money, and sweat equity ain't enough on this. I'm sorry. Especially if that wasn't part of the contract. Well, I put in my time. Doing what? What were you doing? You talking about when you were sitting down and having a conversation? Shit, I could do that. Oh, wow. You could tell how I feel about it. You know, a lot of people can sit and have a conversation, you know, but the lights that need to be put in place so that you get the right angle. You got multi-cams, so you got a camera over here, camera over there, whatever. You got, you know, your backdrop, you got location, you got a chef coming in, they cooking, you weaving that in for healthy eating and different eating practices for the athletes, and kind of giving people subconsciously notes and tips on healthy eating, you know, all this kind of stuff. So you came and sat down and started talking. Thank you, but brother, no. No. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm getting off, but they made it clear Brandon's footing the bill. And then when you come talking about the way that things should be split up or whatever, it's so much that I want to get to right now, but I'm gonna go through this and then go to the other video. But I feel like I should cut the other video into this because I really want to just get to it. Let's go.
Now hold up, stop, no, wait a minute. Now I know we have not sat here and watched this video halfway through and have not pressed the like, comment, share, subscribe, whatever the hell else button is lighting up down there at the bottom of that screen. Don't you know they do studies to see how to make the buttons to the point where you would like to press them the most. So go on down there and press them, and that's what you do when you come to somebody's house. You bring a gift, don't you? Well, I appreciate you. Go on and do that, and we'll be right back after these regularly scheduled messages and whatever the hell else I gotta do before this video comes back. Thank you so much. Talk to you later. Bye.
It speaks a lot to the culture. Now let me ask you this question.
Well, let me ask you a question.
What's up?
Why does it speak to the culture? What do you like about it?
What I've always liked about what you doing,
What we doing?
what we're doing.
Okay, now we at
and
we.
the
That's what's up.
platform
Sound like the
is
contract was
a lot
cut.
of times these athletes, they are so pre-programmed with the team is going to talk to me for 10 minutes and tell me the things I can and cannot say. And they're going to ask you this question and this is what you need to say and answer this question. Like we don't, give you an example, Ocho Cinco, back in the day. I covered Ocho Cinco. Nobody's like Ocho Cinco anymore in the NFL. You know why? Because the league has purified it, watered it down, cleansed it to the point where athletes can't be themselves. They can't talk trash outside of the field. They can't talk trash in the media. They can't tell you, oh, I'm gonna lock down this cornerback today, or I'm going to do all this.
Right.
And to piggyback that, they can't talk about their money situation or their push to get financial security. I remember Jarvis Landry when I was covering the Dolphins.
Yes.
He was paid like, he was a 3-time Pro Bowler and was paid like the 146th highest paid wide receiver. Was played his final contract the entire year and then got to December, had a fracture in his back, was still playing, not practicing, but still playing, and had to go to the GM's office and beg him for a contract offer.
Wow.
Who and has to do this in secret. I find out after the fact, but people don't know what athletes go through. People don't tell
Facts.
the story, and I have conversations with athletes all the time. So, but I'll have the real conversation with them. This is what you should do. This is how you should play it. This is, but with social media and with shows like I Am Athlete, you get a chance to be you. You get a chance to be real. You get a chance to show people who you truly are, not the filtered version of it. And I think that there's some, like a purity to it, that it's unfiltered, it's uncut. And that's what people gravitate to.
I 100% agree. This platform gives athletes so much more context to their humanity, to being more than just the shut up and dribble, type of garbage that people spew. These are humans. These are human beings. These are, fathers, sons, daughters, sisters, brothers, cousins, uncles. Like they're real human beings, real issues, real things that they've gone through. A lot of common and shared experiences that the everyman may not necessarily understand, in terms of the high expectations that are placed on athletes and the high visibility that they have quite often. But then a lot of things that everyone can really relate to on just a human level. It provides a space for that. And it's apparent how that's so much needed and how there's such a gap by how well that they're doing. So yeah, I'm gonna leave that part there. Now I'm gonna switch over to Fred and them talking. Fred. I like Fred and Channing. I feel like this is a little bit of BS, a little bit. Now Brandon, I think Brandon should have made it kind of clear. All of them should have earlier on made sure that their roles and everything was clear, honestly. Brandon should have let it be known kind of his expectation by what he was doing, and what he was expecting based upon what he was putting in. And Channing and Fred should have been more vocal, when they saw all of what Brandon was doing, or maybe they just didn't notice everything Brandon was doing because they wasn't doing it. Maybe you don't know how much you don't really know what it takes for somebody to do something until you do it, or until you really take a look at what's happening. How much it's like when you make sure that the lighting crew gets this, make sure the microphones come in over here, make sure we got everything's working, okay, everything's set up. I don't know that Brandon was doing all that himself, but it seems like, based upon what has been explicitly stated, that Brandon was at the minimum footing the bill for everything that was taking place. So if everybody sitting around here got money and I'm the only one spending it, what the hell are you coming to me talking about ownership? And then when we say, okay, there's an opportunity for ownership, you get mad at what the cost is. I think not. I think no. Hell no. All right. Okay, hold on. We'll be back. Let me get to the second video. Hold on. All right. Okay, here we go. What is the name of these people's podcast, dear Lord Jesus? Hold on. Bussin' with the Boys. Okay, that's the name of the podcast that they are on. Bussin' with the Boys. They doing their thing. All right. And they I guess bussin' is they're on a bus or whatever, so it's like a theme around it. That's cool. It's kind of dope. All right. So let's hear what Channing is talking about. Channing not so much. Let's see what Fred talking about. Fred. Okay.
Listening to you on your guys' Truth Pod, the very first one, you guys go back, check out the episode. I'm telling you, it's phenomenal. But you were speaking to the ideologies, the fundamentals of the vision that seem to change over time. And again, being a fan of I Am Athlete, I Am NASCAR was coming along. You had I Am Athlete Miami, I Am Athlete LA, I Am Woman, so many political and cultural things that you guys are speaking on. Mm-hmm. Can you speak to what exactly you were talking about when you said the fundamentals and ideologies? Or was it simply business came to the table and you guys just didn't see it the same and you guys just had to break up that way?
You're a linebacker, Will? Because you that was pretty fucking impressive.
No, that was impressive.
Don't deflect. Let's get to the point.
That was sexy.
Yeah.
Right. That was pretty fucking dope.
I'll say first off,
you just said you was gonna let Freddie.
No. But I was just saying.
Make sure your mic's close though. Make sure your mic's close.
I was just gonna say, getting with RC was one of he was our first option when we had to pivot, and we planned to pivot. And RC's a great dude, great man, known him for years and all that. So from there, it was a transition, and it was a fundamental and an ideology thought of what's going on. But I think Fred has a different thought.
I think so too.
You know what I'm saying? His thought on it is different than mine, because I'm more of the just move forward with my homeboys type stuff. You know what I'm saying? So whatever Fred got.
So really, really speaking from the bottom of my heart, we didn't just pick Ryan up on the side of the road.
Right.
Obviously, he has a track record. Everything he does, supersedes, what he does. Like, he's just amazing at everything he does. ESPN, the different podcasts
wholly
that
irrelevant,
he's been on, et cetera, et cetera. So for us, it was a blessing in disguise to be able to join together with Ryan, create a company, create our show, and really just try and push the culture.
I don't mean to cut Fred off.
Yes, you do. You just
I'm gonna let him finish. I'm gonna let him finish though. No, I'm about to stop. No, I'm about to stop though. I think the biggest thing that Fred said was create a company.
Right.
Yeah. Because we created a company.
So I'll go back to that.
Okay, you created a company.
So with that, we were able to create a company and learn from our previous failures. Because as black men, right? Not just black men, as men, former athletes, we always push business, making sure you have your business buttoned up.
Right.
We learn a lot. You come into the NFL, you come into a such young age, you got agents and all these different people doing stuff for you. And throughout those processes, you learn a little bit. You learn along the way. Mm-hmm. Some guys are more focused on football. They don't try and learn the business side of it. So that sort of, it through being taken advantage of, I had to learn the business side of it, right? Whether it was by financial advisors, former agent, or whatever. So I said, I'll never let that happen again. So when we entered into, it was spring of 2020, during the quarantine, we called it Quarantine Dreams.
Right.
You know, our former co-host and Brandon, he stopped by and said, hey, look, guys, you mind doing a podcast?
Former co-host. So he's letting you know right then. He's like, not our former, not the former owner, the, you know, any kind of elevated stature or anything. Like, hey, the other co-host, the other of us, 3 or 4, however many people at the time were on there. So he kind of letting it be known that in his eyes, everybody was the exact same. But again, I mean, and I don't really necessarily like all this talk about, because the talking about all of the being taken advantage of, and not really, you know, learning a few things here and there. Like you hear like the significant difference in discussing business when you hear Brandon Marshall talk and you hear Fred talk. They all got money. I'm cautiously assuming they all have money. But listening to Fred talk, Fred sounds like a bystander in his own life. Fred sounds like somebody that is watching other things play out that he should be directly in control of. So I think in terms of his previous career, I don't know nothing about it, but in terms of, you know, having agents and people working on things for you and all that kind of stuff, I think that we've heard a lot about that over the recent years, about players really, not just players, people in, you know, black people launched into stardom, professional business, the big leagues, just not really knowing a lot about the inner workings of their business. You know, musicians and all that kind of stuff in the music business and that sort of thing, that really chews up and spits people out, and is kind of designed to do so. So it's no like fault on that really, because, you know, a lot of, you know, it happens to a lot of even great people, you know, the Tony Braxtons and all that kind of stuff, like TLC, all these, you know, these huge names that just for whatever reason did not understand the business thing when they needed to, or early, you know, just a lot of it is in music. You see a lot of it. So like people signing, you know, 360 deals early on because they were in a desperate state and they really just didn't understand protecting themselves, their likeness, intellectual property, and all of that for the long run. So things like that, we understand that, but I don't understand why we bring that up right now, because it's really not here nor there, because it's kind of like coming to a point of almost making it seem like you were being taken advantage of in this particular situation. And I'm trying to figure out how, when you ain't pay for nothing, but stuff was yet and still every day getting paid for. I'm trying to understand, because I think at some point Fred gonna start talking about sweat equity. Listen, I don't know exactly how much Brandon Marshall was paying people to come and do interviews. He was alluding to 80 and 100,000. I don't know if he meant that was specifically the amounts that he was paying for interviews specifically, or he was just saying like that's what people charge for different day rates for different things. But I'm sure it's thousands of dollars, whatever it is. So, again, just keeping it simple, Fred sounds like a bystander in his life when he should be holding a controller. And talking about all of, you know, learning a little bit and people taking advantage of you or whatever, leading all the way up to today, and I said it would never happen again, but yet it happened again, that's more of a continuation of the way you do bad business. And it's not really like a fault thing, but it's just like, understand that you do bad business and like, you know, make the adjustments or whatever, but it seemed like you got a whole lot of stank on it, as opposed to maybe a Channing. And Channing might as well. He just might just personality wise just not get that deep with it. But it's like Fred got something he holding, you know, that like, you know, like a little chip, you know, and you do bad business. Like, and it's not even a situation of, oh, you do bad business, so somebody taking advantage, like, so Brandon like knew that and just wanted to just jump on top of you. Like, no, like, at least that's not what I'm getting from it. If there's something else that's deeper in this, then cool. But it sounds like you just do stuff. You're not hands-on. You don't know what's happening. You don't know the basic structure of the way things happen and what you should be getting and what your role is fully. And then at the end of things, when stuff is rolling and it's looking good, you want to, now let's what we breaking down, how much I'm getting. Not, bruh. I'm still trying to recoup from the last $2 million I spent. You talking about how much I'm gonna pay you. I ain't paid me back. Like, what? I don't listen.
That's what you think about the podcast. Fuck, we are geek. Let's get out the house.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's make it happen. Quarantine dreams. We all agreed to it, and the show just took off. Mm-hmm. The show went much faster than the paperwork. Yep. The overnight. The business wasn't, we didn't take care of the business. So from that standpoint, and really going back to our first episode in the pivot, right? We took the high road. We decided to take the high road because a lot of the
I don't even know what that means. What does that mean?
Ideologies.
Thank you.
Fundamentals.
That was my word.
I know. I got it. But I'm talking fast. No,
it's an easy word to get tongue-tied on.
A lot of those fundamentals, right? We had a lot of visions. We talked about a lot of things, and because we didn't have the business button up, because Brandon made the initial investment, he took it upon himself to gain majority of the control in the ideas and the things that came into place. Fast forward.
What do you mean? Like, it's like what you said is true, but the way you say it, it sounds like, again, you sound like a damn passenger in a car that you didn't agree to get in or something. Because Brandon put the money in up front, he took it upon himself to do this and do that. Well, okay, wait a minute. So it sounds like you were aware of that from the jump. You knew that he had put in certain amounts from the jump. You didn't do it. So what you mean? You ain't paid for nothing. So okay, he put in the money, he took it upon himself too. Okay, well, you were present during and in between and before and after the episodes that took place for Brandon out doing all this stuff. So at what point were you gonna say something other than before talking about, oh, okay, now I want an ownership split after you done put in all this money to get this thing going? I don't even know what the final number is. I kind of would like to, but it ain't none of my business. But I'm just, because it's really not about making anyone a villain, but it's just really weird to me. I feel like this is a deeper conversation about, in some ways, personality types that really misunderstand each other and I don't know. I wouldn't say either one is flawed. They just don't connect. And you have to do the work to make sure that they connect and you understand each other. Because it's the same thing. You sitting back, somebody brought you the idea to do something. Sure, I'll be involved. I'll do it. I'm gonna show up. When we gonna film? What time? I'll be there. All right. How we get all this stuff? Oh, Brandon paid for it? Oh, okay, cool. Like, so you ain't want to do no paperwork when Brandon was paying bills and writing expense reports and stuff. You ain't want doing the research, doing the background, trying to figure out how to get this thing popping and make it something larger. You ain't want to do no talking then. So then now it's like, okay, now let's figure out, the business or whatever. And now we need to talk. Now we need to now we need to button up. Hell, I would have liked you to button up when I was pressing the buttons on my phone to cash at people or sending checks through, that was too large to cut through other avenues, sending that shit direct excuse me. I'm just saying, ACH transfers and whatnot, because we got to get people here and present and do our fly folks in. Come on, man. You just sound like you was just there. And then somebody did you wrong. Look.
To let's just say March of 2021, we had a second meeting to try and iron out some things. That conversation really didn't go as we all thought. The buy-in sort of was about 20-fold. You know, the valuation of the company, the investment didn't look the same. It was like, but we're buddies. But the business wouldn't tighten up on one end, and then the whole buddy conversation was pretty much thrown out the window. And from there, you know, things sort.
So like this is something else too, right? This is where it gets to the point of I'm like, okay, well, did you have an issue with really what the vision was, or did you have an issue with having to pay for part of that vision in order to be an owner in it? Because I think you looking at it like, okay, we had a podcast, and here goes shit. This should be the valuation of the podcast itself, right? Because that's what we said we're gonna do. We're gonna do a podcast, not a network, not of this, not of that, not of that, right? But I mean, did y'all have conversations about no, Brandon, we not doing this? No, Brandon, we not doing we not doing different cities. No, Brandon, we not doing I Am Women. No, Brandon, this and that. Because it sounded like Brandon was doing things, and y'all knew you didn't make no sense for you to tell him not to do nothing because you wasn't paying for nothing. Oh, this I like. Let me just say this. I like Fred. I like Channing. I love them all together. Oh my gosh, it's special. I'm just giving it real. Like, this don't make no sense. And now that the value, now that the vision has expanded, because you all have partially allowed this without making sure your business is straight and you're fully vested in it, and you're not putting none of the financial backing into it. Now that the vision is larger and it's a little more robust, now you don't want to pay. You don't want to pay what it is to be included, right? Oh, it's 20-fold or whatever. Well, you know what? When y'all first started shooting, y'all was like Brandon said, get 86 views, and now this thing is off the chain. Some of everybody in the game, some of everybody been on this show, you know, and it's taken on a larger presence in the market and filtered into other markets. You know, tapping into women, sports tapping into, you know, pivoting off and tapping into women and relationship stuff with the men and the women of the sports. Like, it's bigger than what it was. It just is. And we not, and look, I said we. And Brandon is not going to devalue the company so that you feel it's an appropriate amount for you to pay into it just because you don't want to pay nothing. What? Listen, and I don't know how it's separated. I don't know if I Am Athlete is like the parent and then you got the subsidiaries or whatever, and whether they can buy into just the main podcast that they're on versus being separated out from anything else. The I Am Woman, I Am NASCAR, all that kind of stuff. Maybe, I don't know. Or maybe it's like Brandon's like, no, it's a you all in or out. You want to be talent, cool. You know, whatever. Or you want to be an owner. What you want to do. But you're not going to be in the passenger seat or a side bumper car on this joint and then all of a sudden stand up and want to, you know, be pulling down major percentages, or not even the percentages, because he said revenue sharing, but you want ownership. So I don't know about that. I do know about that. No.
But it just, you know, we still service the show. Although we didn't have any real skin in the game. We were just merely talent.
Well, you never had any skin in the game.
Really doing it for what we thought we would do it for, which was ownership. So
well, you get
fast
that
forward, man, and still taking the high road a bit.
This is not the high road. This is the cheap road. This is the cheap, low investment, no money down, you know, low payment, no money down, bad credit, no credit, low budget, road, not the high road. It's the cheap road. You just didn't want to pay for what you had built. Well, what Brandon paid for. I don't understand how you can sit there every day and see somebody spending money, time, energy, and resources and and you doing a fraction of what they're doing every day, and you think you should be getting some type of. I will say that the conversation about ownership is still one to be had. When it, I mean, like in terms of what the percentage is, it would be a mighty low percentage for me. If you want to talk about ownership versus like a revenue sharing and that sort of thing. But here goes the other thing. Ownership. There's a component where Brandon has to make sure, and this is like a an aside to business. Brandon has to make sure that he doesn't put himself in some sort of situation where he gets outvoted in terms of the vision of this oorganization by whatever split he's trying to give to you, Fred, to Channing, to Ocho, because I know Ocho gonna get some, because Ocho star power that he bring into that thing is something else. But and what's my man name, Jared or Audric, he trying to make sure he keeps some sort of majority at the very minimum, because when he get done splitting all this stuff up with y'all, then his vision gonna be subject to whatever y'all come up with, or whatever given day when you decide to do some work. In terms of building the platform, not just showing up and performing, because that's great, but it's a lot of stuff that's going into this thing that it just sounds like you all were completely absent for. And so I think a part of Channing kind of knows that, but I think Fred knows it. I just think he feels duped in some kind of way, but it just seems like this is yet another instance of Fred being a passenger in his own life in terms of business. I can't say that to be, I don't know that to be fully true in terms of everything else he's done. He's probably doing very well for himself in a lot of other ways, but I would venture to say my guess would be other people doing all the work for it. He probably put some money in it and probably don't even know what's happening. Hey, is it good? As a matter of fact, I'd like to have Fred go check on his accountant and make sure that they actually paying his taxes. Stay on top of some stuff, because it just sounds like Fred he woke up. What we doing today? Oh, okay. And that's I'm being facetious, but I'm just saying, it's no way you got to this point by being an active, fully proactive participant in this situation, financially and the business, into the business portion.
Because a lot of people's livelihoods are at stake, and I don't want to talk too much about it. And that's old news now. We're not competing against them. We're just trying to create content bridges, man, and give the people something to enjoy, saying organically and through good conversation. I was saying a second ago, Ryan is amazing. So he helps us. He helps us a ton. And we do what we do. Channing, he's the asshole. He's always gonna be.
You're Unc. You're
I'm Unc. I listen. I listen, and then I talk, right? And I always, the perception is
you the B or C Mike.
Then
no, the perception is not I'm smarter. The perception is you like being the B or C Mike. This is a lot. All this Joe Budden stuff's coming in. Like Joe will be like, "Hey, it's an A mic. It's a B mic, and then maybe some distant other stuff." Like it seems like, and I don't know. I will have to look and watch more of the pivot, and because I think that'll be great too. I do enjoy the conversation of them saying it's enough out here for us all to get it. It ain't got to be no negative tearing each other down. Love it. It's exactly right. It's plenty out here for y'all to do. But I'm just like my earlier point. I think Fred is trying to figure out the best way and the most financially beneficial way to be a B mic and just kind of show up and then say something every so often, but not driving the boat nowhere, not driving the conversation. Just more like, okay, I'm here. I need an A mic. We need, what do you say, RC or whatever. We need somebody in here who can really kind of carry structure and stuff, because I'm not going to be a part of none of it, because I ain't really trying to do no work like that. I'm going to show up, I'm going to talk. But structure, all that other stuff, y'all do it. I'll be there and put my name on the company. I'm sorry. I think I really do like all of them. I like all of them. But on the business side of the game, I'm like, ain't no way. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. And you mad too. Ain't no way. Okay. All right.
Of course, because I listen. No, I'm not smarter than you. I just listen.
No, I'm just playing. But the thing is,
and we
man,
developed the show.
It's it's where you have to that's why we called it a pivot, and that's why it wasn't a mistake. RC, was it a mistake? The pivot, you know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't like it was overnight. Like we saw what was going on, and we said we had to move in a different direction.
Right.
Business wise, and we still love, you know what I'm saying? We still support everything that B's doing, and wanting to be successful, but we just see like. There's a goal. There's a finish line. Everything has a finish line. Mm-hmm. And I would say this about business. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what y'all got going. I don't know what y'all got doing. This bus is beautiful.
Appreciate that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a cool concept.
Very low investment.
This jug is dope. Like, when I got to be here, it was crazy.
It's a cool concept.
Taylor.
It's a cool concept.
You think I need to tell you it's a very low investment to have fucking cork board?
Hey, that actually we had to put in. For the sound.
Yeah, for the sound. So I know it's a very low investment, but it's just the vision of what business was going to be. And as we continue to grow, let me know if I'm wrong, Freddie. As we continue to grow, the business concept wasn't the same. Mm-hmm. And at some point, you have to just talk, and we sat down and talked, and we just did it, and was like, no, well, if you want to go this way, that's cool, but we don't want to go that way.
Right.
We don't want to do, we don't want to own gyms. We don't want to support this. We don't want to support that. We want to worry about our talent on this podcast. Mm. And that's the thing that it was just like, listen, we're gonna do this media platform. Mm. And that's what we want to do. That's all we want to do. And I would say Brandon wanted to do something bigger than that.
So did you hear that? Because what I heard is him saying, we just want to be talent. Did I misunderstand that? Did I misinterpret what he just said? We don't want to do that. We don't want to be showing up to no gyms and supporting all this stuff and going to these events and putting money in it. We just want to worry about the talent on the show. What talent? You mean yourselves as talent or other people coming up? Because usually when people refer to the talent, talking about internally for the show. So you're referencing yourself, in my opinion, what I'm hearing, I could be wrong, but what I'm hearing from what you're saying is that as you're speaking for yourself as well as Fred, you want to be talent, and that's what you got. The hell wrong? You want to be talent, you were talent. Now let's get to the part where Fred talk about how, gonna say some stuff about how I could have held it up and I didn't sign no contract, so I could have said take all my stuff down. But you have on other many platforms. I have no doubt that Fred probably reached out to an attorney and his attorney told him, you gonna lose. It might take years, but you're gonna lose. Because you've been on multiple platforms. Y'all all have, in different ways discussed his origin story. All have agreed that Brandon Marshall came and recruited folks to be on this platform and to do this and to record and to put this out. So you did agree to do it. Now, if it's like the money and all that kind of stuff was not agreed to, whatever, you agreed to perform and you, like you said, you still stay true and perform in terms of the talent side. You mentioned that Channing started talking about he just want to be worried about the talent part. So what is all this ownership conversation when you ain't paying for nothing, you ain't doing nothing other than showing up and talking and then being your B or C mic and not paying for nothing, not organizing nothing, not researching nothing. So, and then when you talk about equity and sweat, what did you do to be talking about ownership or anything?
And that's fine.
I didn't believe in it.
That's fine.
I didn't believe in that bigger vision.
What?
And we just had to.
We weren't involved in the long game.
Yeah, and that's
but we could have been involved. Wanted to do off that. You guys weren't involved in that necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, we weren't.
Of you guys, like,
in I Am Athlete Miami, and that was essentially.
No, not so much. It was, from the start. I myself expressed ownership, right, and we really couldn't get the business button up and come to an agreement of what those percentages look like.
Yeah.
And it keeps growing each week.
See, but that's where it
So
shouldn't
then-
be the case.
And so then it wasn't about the vision, and it's just about the ownership piece. Like, you're saying, oh, it's the vision, this and that. But then when he said, okay, so you just wanted to keep it just this one location or whatever. Well, it was the percentages. Okay, so it was the business. It wasn't really the vision. Or Channing, or Channing, you know, maybe for Channing, it was some component of it that was the vision or whatever. He just, like he said, he didn't believe in it. I don't think he would necessarily lie about that. But Fred don't care about that. Fred like vision, schmision. Where the money? And then that money ain't right, so whatever. You know, so bruh, it don't even sound like it's a vision thing. It just sounds like talent want to be ownership, but want to just be talent. You want to put talent in, but be an owner financially and on paper. It don't make no sense.
Because there's a filibuster, you know, happening right in front of me.
Right.
You know, I'm sitting here like, what the fuck? You know, my sweat is traveling alongside the growth of the podcast. So I deferred every dollar, you know, from a talent standpoint back into the company. So that travels with the company and the business and the valuation. But if I can't get the same valuation, you know, where the thought commenced, right? Where we all started, then there's a problem. So those numbers weren't valued appropriately.
Problem for who? What you mean? Wait a minute. How long have y'all been doing this podcast? You wanted to buy in terms of evaluation at where the podcast started. Okay, now this making sense. So you wanted to buy in terms of what a valuation of the podcast would have been when y'all first started. Here go the problem with that. You didn't. You ain't pay for nothing. As far as I can tell. I mean, hell, did you buy people lunch any given day? You bring donuts or anything? Hell, I mean, like, what is this? You wanted the valuation at the time of when things first kicked off. What you mean, a valuation of like $0, and you wanted all your sweat equity, you referring to, which means being talent on camera, which Brandon was also doing, and also still the A mic. Huh? You don't even believe what you saying. You don't even believe it. That's the problem. You don't even believe that. If I could, the problem was when the valuation, it should be. And then when the guy he was like, oh, so yeah, like, because you know, as time goes on, it gets bigger because he understands the business of it. It's not the same as when we started. He might give you, like, Brandon might be able to give you some sort of discount or whatever to be like, okay, got it. Well, what do you think it would be good for you to kind of come in at? Okay, whatever. You know, maybe, but nah, bruh. This ain't what this look like. It ain't the same as when I first was putting in all the money and you wasn't putting in nothing. It ain't the same as it was then. So no. Anyway.
And I felt that was a bit of slap in the face. And this is me just talking my own
slap in the face, let me pay for everything and you're not paying for nothing.
And with that, the paperwork wasn't in place. We were trying to figure out that language and what that looked like. Not just from an equity standpoint, because what was offered was revenue sharing. That's more of a partnership in my mind. That's not ownership. Equity is ownership. So the conversation was sort of overlapping and confusing from that side. I knew exactly what I signed up for. So when that,
I don't think you did
eye to eye
at
on
all.
that, I said, you know what? Retroactively, you know, pay me. And I'll step aside and we'll sign whatever agreements for name, image, likeness so you can keep your content. Otherwise, I can be a dick and say, you know what? We never had any paperwork in place. Let's take down all this fucking content. And then that's the bigger problem. So I didn't want to be the bad guy.
What stopped you from doing that?
I don't want to be a bad guy.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for those guys. You know, whatever direction they go in. I'm really rooting for them because we can still have. It's a fucking million fucking. It's so many people in this country.
There's no
and
limit.
so many people across the globe,
there's
right?
no limited subscribers on YouTube.
Right.
We can all do great
So,
without the hate, without the
There you go.
BS.
There's
You know,
enough eyes in
people
the
want the
ears. Yeah,
drama.
you're right.
The drama sells.
There's enough money, there's enough all of it.
The drama.
We didn't create this. We didn't create this.
So
You did.
we can talk that shit and have their subscribers and other ears and everything else come to the pivot. But people are in that space. People aren't loyal and they don't have to be.
Right.
They just want content. They want to listen to some stuff. They want to see some stuff. They want to laugh. They want to feel good
Teachable
about
moments that
themselves.
come out of
Just
it
like
too.
sitting here with busting with the boys. You guys got your space and what people want to hear and see. And we can come on here and people come over and check us out.
Right.
People from the pivot will come check you guys out. They like it. They love it. They're going to stay. They want to hear and see more. If they don't, they're going to keep pushing.
But
you know what I'm saying? That it's vice versa.
Yeah.
Let me
All right, so from the interview, okay, it's just apparent to me that for one, what really should have happened is everybody should have understood their role from the jump, even though it was, a nebulous, ever shaped or ever forming, concept as to what it would actually ultimately be. Brandon was the one who came to the floor initially with the concept, with the idea, and with the vision of packaging it up to I guess be sold or something of that nature, right, with that particular podcast. So Brandon was always the vision and the brain. Brandon took engagement from the market to really mold the product that they were providing and the business that they were building to what was being sought after in the market. Listening to what the market was, then understood there was much more room to expand in that market. So the business side of it makes perfect sense to me in terms of kind of going with, moving forward with the product based upon what the market is telling you. The component of people not knowing their roles, that's ridiculous. Like, Brandon brought the concept and all of that kind of stuff. So with Brandon bringing the concept and with Brandon spending the money in the front end, that initially is red flags to me. If I'm thinking I'm a equal share owner or whatever type of level of ownership, that's an immediate red flag to me, because I don't know how in the high hell you think that you are getting some sort of substantial ownership percentage of something that wasn't your initial intellectual property and idea, that was brought to you prepackaged, that somebody else is wholly funding, and that is doing the same jobs you're doing, meaning on-air talent. And you talking about sweat equity, that I feel like it's almost like a misuse of the term sweat equity, unless there's something else that Channing and Fred contributed that we just don't know about. They were behind the scenes booking the talent. They was, they was the one doing all the scheduling. They was doing they was bringing in the chefs, going through the menus to see what the guests wanted, doing all this. You're gonna have to tell me more than you sat down and was filming with everybody, and that somehow should give you some level of ownership. No, it makes perfect sense for you to be compensated for what you ultimately ended up doing and becoming and presenting in terms of your resources and time you invested into the company and project and whatever you want to call it. It was talent. You referenced the fact that you proceeded in terms of talent and that you performed under that obligation for talent, and you wanted to be retroactively paid for your services. Great, that's cool, because that's what you did. You were talent. From what I can tell, from what has been presented, I didn't look. I mean, probably need to, take a look at your separate discussion that you all had on the pivot about it. But I don't think I necessarily need to, being that you answered these questions here. Like, I can go off of what you said right here. But yeah, that's from what I can tell. That's what you did. So then. And then for Channing, he's like, we don't want to be worried about all this other stuff. We just want to be worried about the talent on this thing. Okay. That's how that's usually what happens. You get paid for that. That's called talent. So there go your check. Now, go on about your business unless you want to continue to be talent, but you want to be an owner. And I don't know how you came up with that. So But it's good that, but the good thing that's come out of this is that the business apparently is presumably squared away with the pivot, right? Everybody is very clear coming into the situation, what it is, who's doing what, you know, and who's getting paid for what, whatever. They probably just, you know, split it down the middle, like whatever, dude, split it into thirds or whatever, you know, I don't know. However they want to do their business and make sure, like Fred said, it's buttoned up, right? And then that way there's no issue and you can preserve the relationship that you had because there's removal of confusion. When you reduce things to writing in a contract, it's not like a shifty, you know, kind of sketchy thing in a lot of ways. A lot of ways is to help keep people accountable for what they initially agreed to and what they were gonna specifically perform under in the contract. So that if there's ever a dispute, you go back to the contract and it can be the referee per se, to the point where you don't have a lot of the bad blood that comes in when people are trying to retroactively figure out what the actual agreement was, if there ever was a real agreement. It can sound like there was never really a real agreement, except for the fact that you guys were going to come together, film, and then put out this content, which you did. So anyway, I just want to talk about that because it's a lot. It's helpful to have the conversation when it comes to doing business and, you know, making moves towards, you know, entrepreneurial endeavors, because that's one of the things that will really help individuals kind of get into a space of creating generational wealth, creating, being a creator, a creative, developing things, being a producer as opposed to always consuming. That's something that will really help a lot of people who are locked out of a lot of other opportunities to really generate wealth and to do so in such a way that may have reverberating impacts on your family down the generations down the line. So I'll leave that there. I thought it was really interesting. Fred is like, oh, everybody loves the drama. No, there's a lot of teachable moments in a lot of this. I actually like the way that this was rather amicable between everybody, and they try to, you know, keep it cool. You know, like, okay, it's some people. Fred is clearly hurt, upset, like he feeling the type of way. Fred clearly, and I hope at this point they stop talking about this, because what I noticed is a lot of people, like, it's almost like the situation is dead, and then they use it like for the clicks and soundbite and stuff. I mean, do what you want to do, but it's kind of like everybody has spoken on it and addressed it, and it's kind of like now, like every time y'all talk about it, it seemed like a little bit more. Get a little bit more detail, a little bit more here. Just say it and then be done. Like, but anyway, I brought that up just for making sure that people are aware that, like, when you start a business with folks, make sure that the business is straight from the get-go. At the very least, that people know what their roles are, and also make sure that you're not riding on somebody else's intense labor, you know, mental resources that they're putting in, time, energy, and money, and then turning around thinking that you're about to get some grand payout for work that you did not put in, and that was not solidly agreed to beforehand, and that you just simply should not be getting paid for because you didn't do it. You wasn't with him sacrificing, trying to get this background knowledge and get this thing off the ground and expand this whole vision to the point where it could be, you know, legacy building. And like he said, develop a network. He's looking at the finances of these things and looking at what other people are selling stuff for, 300 million, this and that and the third, just even, you know, maybe licensing the content to different platforms and how you can cut it up, audio, video, and all this kind of stuff. And y'all just want to show up and just press record and and not even be the A mic. You just want to show up and be the sprinkle. Put this to talk about. I mean, I love the chemistry of it, but it's kind of like, it's not even like a full carrying of the conversation. Like, probably out of everybody on their podcast, Fred probably talked the least. You know, I sit back and listen. Okay, that's great for when you at home watching TV, but this a podcast. I really wish they were all still together. But such is life. But I think it's a lot to learn from it. So anyway, that's the end of it. Thank you all so much for watching another episode of OPM and Beyond. So remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that great stuff. Press every button that's down there. You see them all down there. They all outlined, waiting on you to press them. You saw them. Get down there and press them. If you didn't press them during the halftime of the video, press them now. I sure enough appreciate it. Thank you so much. And until the next time, I'll holler at y'all. Peace.
I can never doubt myself, I know better. All of you critics be acting like you know better. Blowing the smoke, but I know when the dust settles that I'm in my element. It's evident that there's levels to the game. All of those dark nights I got them, breaking my back to make it out, got me feeling like rain. I ain't never need your help, I know you wishing me well. A penny for your thoughts, but seeing no change. I snap for the sun like Diddy. The riches got a mad ass son, I'm like Billy. I ain't never switch up, whole team with me. Putting on for my city like OAGZ.